The Midnight Caller. Jake lived alone in a small, slightly run-down apartment on the fourth floor of an old, forgotten building. His nights were often spent in profound solitude, the quiet broken only by the distant, muffled city hum and the occasional creak of the building. He worked long, demanding hours, and by the time he got home, exhaustion usually claimed him, pulling him into a deep, dreamless sleep. But one evening, as the clock on his bedside table clicked past midnight, his landline phone, an old rotary model he kept for sentimental reasons, began to ring. He picked it up, half asleep, groggy and disoriented, expecting a wrong number or perhaps a late-night call from a colleague. "Hello," he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. Silence. A heavy, absolute silence stretched across the line, broken only by a faint, almost imperceptible, distorted whisper, like wind rustling through dead leaves. It sounded distinctly like his name. Jake. He frowned, shaking his head to clear the fog. "Hello? Who is this?" No response. Assuming it was a prank call or perhaps a faulty connection on the old line, he muttered, "Wrong number," and hung up with a decisive click. But the calls persisted. Every night, the same time, as the clock struck precisely 12, he tried unplugging the phone, pulling the cord from the wall, but it still rang, an impossible, phantom chime echoing through his apartment, defying logic. He even tried leaving it off the hook, but the sound, though fainter, still permeated the air, a maddening, persistent hum that burrowed into his skull, driving him to distraction. The voice, too, began to change. With each passing night, it grew clearer, more insistent, shedding its distortion. It started with just his name, but soon it began recounting intimate details of his life. "Jake, you forgot your keys on the counter this morning. Jake, you had pizza for dinner, didn't you? Jake, the old photograph of your mother, it's still on your desk, isn't it?" Chillingly accurate details, things no one else could possibly know. Panic began to set in, a cold, creeping tendril of fear that wrapped around his heart, squeezing it tight. He contacted the phone company, desperate for an explanation. They checked his records, ran extensive diagnostics. "Mr. Harrison," the technician had said, his voice flat, "there's no record of any calls to your number during those times. No incoming, no outgoing. Your line is perfectly clear." This only deepened Jake's dread. If the calls weren't coming from an external line, from the outside world, where were they coming from? Who was making them? And how did they know so much about his private life? He started bolting his doors, double-checking the locks, checking his windows repeatedly, sleeping with a knife under his pillow for a semblance of security. He installed cameras, but they showed nothing but an empty apartment, a silent, still space. Yet, every night, precisely at midnight, the phone would ring. One particularly stormy night, the rain lashing against his window with violent force and thunder rattling the panes of glass, Jake, fueled by sleepless nights and a burgeoning sense of madness, decided he wouldn't hang up. He wouldn't ignore it. He would confront it, face the source of his torment. He waited, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs, his hand trembling uncontrollably as it hovered over the receiver. As the clock struck 12, the phone rang, A deafening shriek in the quiet apartment. He snatched it up, his voice hoarse, raw with fear and desperation, demanding, "Who is this? What do you want?" The voice on the other end was no longer distorted. It was clear, deep, resonant, and eerily familiar. It was his own voice. "I'm closer than you think," it whispered, the words slithering into his ear, twisting his sanity, shattering his last vestiges of composure. A sudden, unnatural cold swept through the room, chilling him to the bone, raising goosebumps on his arms. The air grew heavy, thick with a palpable, oppressive presence. He felt it, a cold breath on the back of his neck, a subtle, disturbing shift in the air directly behind him. The phone slipped from his numb fingers, clattering to the floor with a dull thud. Slowly, agonizingly, Jake turned. He faced the darkness, the empty space behind his armchair. There was nothing there. Only the oppressive void, a suffocating emptiness. But the cold remained. The feeling of being watched, consumed, was overwhelming. He realized, with a horrifying clarity that pierced his very soul, that some calls are better left unanswered. Because sometimes the call isn't coming from outside the house, it's coming from within. And it's already there, waiting,